Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. I do apologize for being a few minutes late for this scheduled live. We are getting a bit of a snowstorm, so I thought I would be ready in time, but I had some things I had to take care of. And so, again, I do apologize for that. But, and before I get into anything any further, tomorrow we will be on with Operify. So really looking forward to that. Will be at noon Eastern time tomorrow. So yeah, really looking forward to that. You're going to want to tune in for that tomorrow. And I guess without any further ado, let's just kind of jump into it. Again, seeing as how I'm a few minutes behind here. So I want to talk to everybody about basically the current trends in freight fraud, right? Some statistics, things that we can do, because as we all know, it's running very, very rampant. For me personally, it seems like it's sort of toned down a little bit, but I know that it is. I just haven't run into it near as much as I had compared to, like, say, the first half of 2023, the first two quarters. But I know that there's many others out there that are experiencing it. I've had some of you reach out to me in regards to this, like, oh my gosh, Tim, what do I do? Kind of a thing. So I thought that it was important that we kind of go over and discuss some of this. And this is from our friends over at Freight Caviar. If you're not familiar with that, check them out at freightcaviar.com. They're not a sponsor or anything like that, but they had some data and some statistics and different things that I felt were kind of important that we should all be aware of, right? Knowledge is power. So as freight fraud tactics become more sophisticated, there is a pressing need for more innovative solutions to keep up with these advanced tactics. The fraud attempts of yesterday may have been amplified thanks to the misuse of technology, making a compelling case for robust technology response, right? The freight industry has witnessed a dramatic surge in fraudulent activities in recent years, with technology playing a key role in enabling these crimes. While technology advancements have streamlined logistics and supply chain operations, they have also opened up new avenues for scammers to exploit. 2023 saw an alarming increase in cargo theft numbers, with a significant rise in shipment misdirection by fraudulent means, right? So I've actually talked to a few owner-operators who, let's just say, for instance, they picked up a load out of Dallas. They were getting a really great rate, and it's supposed to go to, they're telling them it's got to go to Phoenix, Arizona, to this warehouse, right? Which in actuality, the load was maybe supposed to go to Chicago. And what ends up happening is the driver ends up dropping it off at the warehouse in Phoenix, and they steal the load, right? They've double brokered the load. The driver's not going to get paid. Now they're stuck trying to find out who the actual shipper is, who the original broker was, because the broker got scammed as well, right? The double broker probably asked for quick pay, so they probably already got paid on the load. So this is why we all have to do our due diligence. And I know that we talked about this months ago, but I think this is something that we should still all be very, very aware of, and to all do our due diligence. Okay. According to CargoNet, there was a 59% increase in thefts in the United States and Canada compared to the previous year, highlighting a worrying trend. Traditional cargo theft, which involves physically stealing cargo, rose by 63% in the first half of 2023 alone. So think about that, 63% increase. How many carriers and brokers were affected by that, right? We all know that there are carriers and brokers that have sort of unfortunately fallen by the wayside as a result of a downturn in the market, and obviously this has had an impact as well, right? It's undeniable. absolutely has an impact on business operations. And it doesn't matter whether you're an owner operator, small brokerage, large brokerage, or you've got a fleet, right? It's going to affect you. However, a more insidious problem is cargo theft achieved through deception, with rates growing exponentially up to 600 to 700% in some comparisons year over year. Excuse me. My coffee trying to come back up on me. The integration of data and automation into the freight industry has been a game changer. However, it has also created vulnerabilities. As Brent Hudo, and I hope I'm not saying that incorrectly, from Truckstop notes, the movement of carrier, freight, and broker information through digital channels has opened cyber doors for criminals. The misuse of digital platforms for fraud, including identity theft and broker impersonation, highlights the need for advanced solutions. Okay, guys, for those of you that are tuning in, and even if you catch this later, give me your thoughts on some of this. I'd love to see your comments on this. Maybe you were affected by it. Maybe you weren't affected by it. Maybe you have an opinion on this. Whatever it is, I'd love to get your feedback. I love reading your guys' comments, right? Strategic theft has emerged as a sophisticated form of cargo crime. It involves a series of steps where thieves steal the identity of a shipper or broker, book a load under this false identity, and then misdirect the cargo to steal it. This method is akin to laundering, where the identity of the cargo is continuously altered through cross-docking and reissuing of paperwork, making it difficult to trace, right? Sort of like what I had just mentioned a few minutes ago. Fraudsters may spoof or falsify credentials, logos, or email addresses to appear as legitimate carriers or brokers, and then engage in various fraudulent activities, such as requesting upfront payments or stealing loads in transit, right? Just like I had mentioned before. Complaints of double brokering increased 400% from the fourth quarter of 2022 to the first quarter of 2023. That is an alarming percentage, right? Double brokering, though not always directly linked to cargo theft, has significantly contributed to the rise in freight fraud. It involves the unauthorized transfer of a load from one freight broker to another without the shipper's consent, right? And also without the freight broker's consent, because there's no transparency on the load anymore, right? There's no co-broker agreement in place or anything like that. In late 2022 and early 2023, complaints related to double brokering increased by 400%, indicating a staggering rise in this type of fraudulent activity, as I just mentioned a moment ago. Tackling freight fraud is akin to navigating a complex maze with moving walls. The intricacies of identifying and preventing such fraud stem from several key factors. Those involve evolving fraud schemes. Fraudsters continuously adapt and refine their tactics, making it challenging to keep up. As soon as one method is encountered, they devise new strategies to bypass security measures. Guys, before I go any further, in my last video, we talked about having the proper tools and resources to help you grow and be a successful carrier and freight broker, right? So utilizing things like Carrier OK, e-carrier check. If you need freight factoring, they also have things, and they've caught identity thefts on their end as well. Someone trying to come in, they had all the carrier's information, tried to fraudulently, spoof the factory company. Oh, we need the payment sent here now for these loads, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really good to partner with those companies that more or less kind of have your back, right? Because it can be the difference between at least staying afloat and being successful in this industry and losing everything, right? So technology is really, it's been, how do I put this? The freight industry has always seemed to have been a step or two behind in technology and our uses of it. But I am happy to see that some of it is kind of coming further and further, and it's being utilized much more than it has been in the past, right? And it's unfortunate that we have to, utilize a lot of some of this, but at the same time, with a lot of these scammers and things like that, they're utilizing it, so we have to combat it, right? And just check and see. Okay. All right. Just one. I'm flipping pages here, guys, so bear with me because I'm just checking to see if I got any comments from you that I need to respond to before I go any further. So another one is sophisticated deception techniques, the use of advanced technology by criminals. Again, criminals, okay? They're stealing from us. Has led to more sophisticated deception techniques. This includes everything from creating convincing fake identities to hacking into digital freight systems, right? Like, so if you remember, I mentioned in one of the previous videos about the whole phishing scheme. They'll recreate a website that looks exactly like, let's say, DAT. And then you'll get a phishing email saying, oh, well, we need you to update your password or whatever. We need you to log into your account, and they'll leave a link. Well, if you're not attuned to these types of things, and you're like, oh, geez, I've got to update or, whatever it is they want you to do, you click that link, you enter in your login credentials, right? And now they've got your login for the real DAT account. And then they'll get in there, they utilize that, grab all your information, and the FMCSA is letting them take that information and steal your identity, steal your authority, your DOT. It's gotten bad, right? And it's up to us, because obviously the federal government they give two whips about you or I, right? So we need to do this on our own. Limitations of traditional verification methods, right? Traditional. Inadequate data verification. Traditional methods often rely on service level data verification, which isn't foolproof against sophisticated frauds. Okay, this brings up another valuable point. If you are not utilizing something like DAT Onboard, RMIS, My Carrier Packets as part of your vetting system, and something like Carrier 411 or Carrier OK, things like this to vet your carriers, right? Especially if they have a newer authority, and that doesn't mean just because they have a newer authority that they're a bad carrier. And I'm talking about this from a broker standpoint, and obviously this works both ways, because if you're a carrier, you don't want to get caught up in a double brokering thing. But in the interest of time, we're just going to use this one scenario, right? We need to utilize everything, because if we're just taking that PDF packet that they fill out, entering them into the system and kicking them off a rate confirmation because their information looks okay on the FMCSA, right, on Safer Web, that won't work. Because number one, Safer Web is behind on updating everything, right? Because if you remember, was it late spring, early summer? This comes to mind. There was another broker that I know who had been working with this carrier very frequently. I think about every 3 days, or so, picking up a load for them regularly. What that broker didn't know, because they didn't go back in, and they had RMIS, I believe it was. They didn't go back in, double check to make sure that their insurance was still valid or anything. They just pulled up the FMCSA. Yep, everything looks fine. Well, then what ended up happening was the carrier there was some mishap at, I believe it was the receiver's door, might have been the shipper, but ended up tearing the door off at the shipper or receiver, whichever one it was. And so obviously now you've got an insurance claim. And when they reached out to the insurance company said, yeah, their insurance hasn't been valid for like 2 or 3 weeks. They quit paying on it. So their policy's been canceled. Well, then now what? Right? Then that opens a whole nother can of worms and things. So we can't just rely on utilizing SaferWeb as our go-to for vetting carriers and brokers, right? We've got to start utilizing some technology. And there's some simple things that we can do, like verifying phone numbers and emails, which obviously if you're a carrier trying to vet a broker, their agents might have a very different phone number and email, right, that doesn't match up to what it says on Safer, things like this. But there's other things that we can do. Moving on, delayed response. The traditional verification processes are time consuming, often leading to delayed responses that give fraudsters a window to execute their plans, right? There we go back to hand entering in. Excuse me. Well, I had way too much coffee, and I apologize. Entering that information in manually versus a system that integrates with your TMS or whatever system you're using, it opens up that time frame, right, for them to keep doing what they're doing. The human factor and technological gaps. Even the most vigilant staff can fall prey to well-crafted scams, especially under high-pressure conditions or due to lack of training, right? So think about this. If you're a freight agent or a broker and you get a load at 4 o'clock or something, or say 3:30, and, a last minute thing that, maybe the your customer had a truck not show up, and they're like, we really need a truck in here by 5 o'clock, to get this loaded. So now you're under pressure, and if you're still doing everything manually, you're more apt to kind of not catch everything that you should have, right? Technology shortcomings. Existing systems might not be equipped to handle advanced fraud techniques, especially those exploiting digital platforms, right? And there again, I don't feel that things like DAT onboard, RMIS are 100% foolproof, so you cannot rely on them alone. I've run into this utilizing those platforms, and everything looked great. They were, good to go. But then when you check one of the other services like Carrier OK, come to find out there's like 15 other brokerages listed under that MC or carriers. They're utilizing a virtual office. They're operating from overseas. They have one truck, no driver, things like this, right? So we cannot rely just on those, like My Carrier Packets, RMIS, or anything like that. We've got to have more, right? So there's shortcomings to some of the things that we've been utilizing. Lack of comprehensive monitoring. Continuous monitoring is essential, but many systems lack the capability to detect anomalies in real time, right? Allowing fraudsters to slip through the cracks, just like I mentioned a moment ago. These challenges highlight the need for an agile, technology-driven approach that can adapt quickly, offer advanced verification, and minimize human error to effectively combat freight fraud. Because you can pay a few dollars now, essentially, to combat this, or it could cost you thousands of dollars down the road if this happens to you, right? And it doesn't matter whether you're a carrier or a broker. It can happen. So learning from fintech, the KYC analogy, just as KYC, which is know your customer, has transformed the fintech industry by enhancing transparency and trust. KYT, know your trucker, aims to achieve the same in the trucking sector. KYC checks in fintech serve a dual purpose. One, risk assessment. They enable fintech companies to evaluate a customer's risk profile. Two, fraud mitigation. More importantly, KYC checks are crucial in confirming a customer's identity by verifying that financial institutions are dealing with the correct person. KYC helps prevent financial fraud and identity theft, right? So this goes beyond even our business, right? They could have access to your personal identity, okay? Similarly, KYT brings this concept of thorough identity verification and risk assessment to the trucking industry by making sure that freight brokers and carriers are dealing with legitimate and trustworthy individuals. KYT aims to reduce the risk of freight fraud significantly. Okay. Now, this is sort of, when I read this, sort of blew my mind. This is something that I hadn't even considered being something that we could use to combat, freight fraud, double brokering and things. The centrality of facial recognition, right? Something out there, at least in my mind. At the core of KYT's approach to combating freight fraud is its facial recognition technology. This feature is key in assessing the authenticity of individuals involved in freight transactions. One, immutable identity verification. Fraudsters may change their names, company details, emails, and phone numbers, but they cannot alter their faces. KYT's facial recognition technology effectively prevents individuals from hiding behind false identities. 2, deterring and stopping repeat offenders. This approach not only deters bad actors from engaging with legitimate freight brokers, but also stops them from rebranding and repeating fraudulent activities if they are flagged in the system. 3, protection for both freight brokers and carriers. KYT's facial recognition technology offers a strong layer of protection for both brokers and carriers. It safeguards brokers from scams and protecting carriers from having their information stolen and misused. Okay. Facial recognition association. This feature enhances the platform security by 1, monitoring carrier associations like phone number association, facial recognition association, notifies the freight broker if the motor carrier is linked with any other carrier on the platform and the last date of association. 2, preventing undetected rebranding. If a user is flagged for serious misconduct, such as double brokering or cargo theft, every broker on the platform is notified. That means this bad actor cannot re-enter the industry undetected, no matter how many shell companies they open, right? Solving real-world problems in real time. Within this company, an agent named Bob is flagged for double brokering. If Bob then tries to rebrand and establish a new company, KYT's system promptly identifies and flags Bob's face for his past misconduct. Moreover, other agents from the original shell company, Joe Trucking, right, cannot evade detection. Should any of these individuals attempt to pass KYT's identification process, even after altering their names, emails, or phone number, the system will recognize them. It immediately reveals their prior association with the flag John Doe Trucking, including their date of their last interaction. Essentially, any user linked to a carrier previously caught for double brokering will be identified, allowing for continuous accountability and transparency in their network. Okay. Additional features of KYT. While facial recognition is the backbone of KYT's platform, other features complement this technology. AI-powered solutions. Advanced algorithms detect and flag unusual patterns, staying ahead of evolving fraud schemes. Real-time verification. Instant verification processes, including driver's license validation, significantly reduce the window for fraudulent activities. Advanced security features. Additional features like phone number, network information aid in identifying discrepancies. By focusing on facial recognition and supplementing it with other advanced features, KYT stands out as a comprehensive solution in the battle against freight fraud, creating a safer and more transparent environment for all parties involved. Now, guys, this article obviously sort of promotes this company. I in no way, shape, or form have anything to do with this company, but I just thought it was very interesting. And I thought it would be great to get your guys' feedback on this, what you thought about it, if you find any holes in what they're doing, right? Any way to bypass this, because you guys are smarter than I am, right? So just something I thought was worth mentioning. These advanced features are just the beginning of what KYT offers to redefine freight security. KYT makes the process seamless and user-friendly. There's no need for an app download, as everything is conducted smoothly via secure text message. Importantly, the focus is on verifying the identity of the person booking the freight, not every trucker targeting the route of potential fraud. Okay. KYT is a free tool for carriers, providing a vital safeguard for your motor carrier number against unauthorized use of KYT brokers. As for brokers, KYT is so confident in the platform's effectiveness that new users will receive $100 worth of free credit to explore KYT. There are no strings attached, no credit card required. If you're not convinced by what you see, there's absolutely no loss. Guys, I think I might check this out just to see exactly, if everything is what it's cracked up to be, and then maybe do a follow-up video, right? And obviously, as it mentioned, this is free for you carriers out there. So if you're an owner-operator, fleet owner, this might be something that you want to check out. It's free for you to use. And for you brokers, you get $100 worth of free credit to use, no credit card required or anything like that. So, it may or may not be something worth continuing on with. I mean, anything free is worth saving up for, right? Is it kind of the old saying, I guess. But it might be worth checking out, at least just to kind of see what the platform is like. And if you guys need links for anything like that, just let me know. I forgot to put them in the description down below, but if you just comment or something and say, hey, drop the link for us, I will absolutely do that. So again, let me know your thoughts on this. I don't know. I would really like to kind of put the system through its paces to see if it actually is cracked up to what it is, right? Because off the bat, one of the first things I think of, although I think it mentioned in there that they would have to show their ID, right, with their name on it. But if they're operating from overseas, they could use a false ID, maybe their cousin changes the name on a fake ID to their name or something. And I see the potential for holes in this system. But again, it's very interesting, and it might be worth checking out. Again, guys, you guys are awesome. Don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We're going to have Danny from Operify on. So be prepared for any questions that you might want to ask tomorrow. Again, that'll be at noon Eastern. And again, don't forget to check out our sponsors. It helps them. It helps the channel. If you're not already a member of the Facebook group, I strongly encourage you to join the group. It is private. We vet every pending post to keep out scammers and things like that, because, if you're a member of some of the other ones, they just sort of don't have any checks to anything, and it's just a lot of spam and things like that. And I'm not downing them or attacking them in any way. I don't want it to come across like that. But when you're trying to network, and build relationships and things, you hate to have to sift through 20 posts of garbage, and bad apples to make any headway. It can be kind of discouraging, right? So again, if you guys have any questions or anything like that, you want to reach out to me again. My email, freightmasterresources@gmail.com. I will be more than happy to get back with you for any questions that you might have. Again, if I don't have the answer, I know somebody who's much smarter than I am that does have the answer, because, again, I have a very large network of some really great people, and they will have the answer for me if I don't, right? And also if e-carrier check, I'm going to try to have them on next week. Check them out. Use promo code FreightMaster10, get 10% off for your first 3 months. Guys, we did a video on this. You can look it up, and really great system. I use it, right? I use pretty much everything that we promote, right? Because they're such great companies. They really truly are. And if you have any questions about anything, again, I'll be more than happy to answer them for you, or put you in touch with a rep who can maybe answer, your questions a bit more thoroughly. But again, I'd love to get your feedback on this video, and again, be prepared for tomorrow. And with that, I hope you guys are having an awesome Wednesday, and I will see you all tomorrow at noon.